Hi, I'm Michael Quigley from Cataholis. I'm on a mission to try and help 1 billion people. And in this video, I would like to help you in your leadership so that you can be the leader that your team needs and not the leader that you want, and why that's probably a good idea. So it sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? You've had a manager in the past, you've had someone who's a leader, and you had to report to them, and they were a nightmare, and they were so horrible. And you think, I wish they were like this, or if I was a leader, I'd be like this because I'd want this. It sounds like a good idea, but here's a few reasons why it's not. Firstly, they're not you. There's me and you and 8 billion other people. Most people are not like you just by in terms of numbers. And what they need and what they want is probably going to be a bit different to you. The second thing is if you focus on what you want and you create leaders like you can create a team in your image, which is a really bad idea because you just end up with lots of people like you and it ends up like this little silo and everybody thinks the same. Not a good idea. And the third reason is that leads to shallow potential. You're not actually bringing out the best in people. You're just kind of restricting them to your ideas and your way of thinking, the way you'd like it. So it becomes very like focus on you. It's a very selfish form of leadership, actually. So again, it sounds good to be the leader that you'd want, but think more, what's the leader that my team needs? So I want to tell you a funny little story to illustrate the point. So this was many years ago in one of my first leadership positions as a primary school teacher, my first class. So I'm all trained. I've got my degree. I think I'm ready to go. And there's, 35 children and one teaching assistant looking at me, and I'm like, right, here we go. And I wanted to be, really jokey, really friendly, that, not necessarily the cool teacher, but I wanted to just be more quite informal and quite relaxed. But these children were 7 and 8, and they didn't need that. Especially at the start of the year, they needed me to be strict, they needed me to be firm, they needed to be set up the boundaries and say, no, that's not cool. You cannot do that for that reason. No, don't hit that person, don't do that. And they actually needed me to be very strict. And I was like, fine, if that's what they needed. I tried cracking a joke, they didn't get it. What they actually needed was the boundaries and they needed the rules and they needed the discipline. And we still had a lot of fun, but they needed that approach, especially that particular year. They're full of characters. And I remember thinking, this is not what I thought, but this is obviously what they need, so I'm willing to do that. And anybody who's a teacher will tell you the first kind of 3 months you have to be very firm, very strict. And then as the year goes on and you get to know the children, they get to know you, you can kind of relax a little bit and you can be a bit more friendly and jokey. And by the end of the year in the summer, I had great relationships with them. I was able to be a bit more kind of the way I wanted, but only because I'd done it the way that they needed first. Can you see if I tried to just power through and be the way I wanted to be, they wouldn't have responded to that. And it wouldn't have been a great learning environment. Who knows what would have happened because I wasn't actually giving them what they needed. And that was a very powerful lesson that I learned very quickly. So think about that. What does your team need? Do they need you to be energetic and positive, or do they need you to be a bit more calm? Do they need a lot of data and a lot of detail, or do they need you to be very simple and keep it to like one sentence so they don't get overwhelmed? Are they very low on motivation and they're stressed out at the moment? And the last thing they need is you trying to wind people up and put pressure on them. So ask yourself these questions to kind of think about it. What does your team need? And how do you actually know? A lot of people, when I ask them these questions, they'll say, well, I know they need this and this. And I go, okay, but how do you actually know that? And they go, and really it's just from their own thoughts and their own feelings. Same with the children. I didn't just go on thoughts and feelings. I went on the experience of that day and thought, right, that didn't work. They need this. Or we go on the data, we'd look at their test scores, we'd look at their books and think, right, well, they need to change this. I need to change that learning objective. So you go on the data and you go on the environment a lot more than necessarily hunches, unless it's somebody that you know really well. And so an action point for you to think about in your leadership is, am I being the leader that I want if I was part of that team? Or am I being the leader that my team needs? And the best way to do it, just ask them. Ask them this question. What do you need in order to be successful? Have a listen. Their answer might surprise you. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you like it, if you're new to Catos, please give it a like and a subscribe. Comment if you're new. I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll see you very soon.